In the shimmering desert city of Las Vegas, built on the illusions of wealth and reinvention, the Bellagio Hotel stands as a gleaming monument to excess. Its fountains leap into the hot air, choreographed to music and light, mesmerizing millions who pass through the Strip. Yet, on a scorching day in the summer of 2000, inside one of its luxurious suites, a tragic and silent story was concluding. Away from the casino's cacophony and the neon shimmer, a young man who had once been hailed as the raw voice of his generation lay dead. He was only 25. His name was Justin Pierce, and for one incandescent moment in the mid-1990s, he embodied the restless energy of youth. His death was not merely a Hollywood tragedy. It was a brutal reminder of the fragile line between playing a role and being consumed by it. To understand his fate, one must return to the streets that first shaped him. Roots in New York's grit. Born in London in March 1975 to a Welsh mother and an American father, Pierce's early ties to England were fleeting. His family relocated to New York City, settling in Marble Hill, a Bronx neighborhood politically tied to Manhattan. His childhood was turbulent, fractured by his parents' bitter divorce when he was 15. The event left him destabilized, sending his grades spiraling and pushing him further toward rebellion. Soon, school became irrelevant. Home no longer felt safe, and the streets became his domain. He lived nomadically, drifting from one couch to another, sleeping in stairwells or subway tunnels. His days were filled with petty theft, food, beer, clothes, and with skateboarding, the one passion that gave him meaning. He wasn't just good, he was extraordinary. He bonded with fellow skaters like Harold Hunter and Peter Bissai, who became icons of New York's skate scene. Together, they helped define the Zoo York team, a brand that turned East Coast skating into a cultural movement. For Justin, skating wasn't just sport. It was survival, identity, and family rolled into one. His wild charm and anarchic humor made him magnetic, but his authenticity, raw and unpolished, would soon carry him far beyond the city's cracked pavement. A chance encounter with art. In the early 1990s, photographer Larry Clark, infamous for chronicling youth subcultures with disturbing intimacy, set out to create a film. His partner was Harmony Korine, a precocious teenager who had written a screenplay in just a few weeks. That script, bluntly titled Kids, was a day-long descent into the lives of New York teens, told through a lens of sex, drugs, and skateboarding. Clark insisted on casting real kids, not trained actors, to capture truth. His search brought him to Washington Square Park, the epicenter of the skate scene. There, he met Justin. Stories about Pierce's casting have become legend. One tale recounts how, after breaking his wrist during a petty theft gone wrong, he was approached by Clark. The director was immediately struck by Justin's reckless charisma and mischievous presence. At one point, Pierce even tried selling Clark marijuana. Instead of recoiling, Clark saw it as confirmation. This wasn't someone pretending, this was the role itself. Soon, Pierce was cast as Casper, the tragic clown at the heart of Kids. Casper was a foul-mouthed, reckless boy drowning in drugs and alcohol, but beneath his chaos was an unmistakable vulnerability. He was funny, broken, destructive, and lovable all at once. Justin didn't act the part, he lived it. The chaos of Kids. The filming of Kids mirrored its subject matter. The cast, mostly non-actors from the streets, improvised heavily, while Clark let reality dictate much of the film. For Pierce, the production provided an anchor: money, structure, friends, and recognition. But the boundary between his character and his reality blurred dangerously. The drugs and alcohol on screen weren't props, they were extensions of the cast's lives. At the time, Pierce was living in a closet-sized room in the basement of the Chelsea Hotel, an iconic hub of New York bohemia, but far from glamorous. He was balancing homelessness with sudden celebrity, and the tension seeped into his performance. When Kids premiered at Sundance in 1995, it ignited cultural warfare. Critics either hailed it as a masterpiece of realism or condemned it as exploitative child pornography. Its NC-17 rating nearly doomed it, until producer Harvey Weinstein sidestepped restrictions by releasing it unrated through a shell company. The uproar only made it infamous. Overnight, Justin Pierce became a star. His portrayal of Casper was celebrated for its authenticity, for the way he turned nihilism into a heartbreaking portrait of youth adrift. He won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Debut Performance, a staggering leap for a boy who had recently been sleeping in subway tunnels. Stardom and its burden. Fame catapulted Pierce into a new world. He was flown to Cannes, interviewed by magazines, and hailed as the authentic face of Generation X. He moved to Los Angeles, chasing further acting opportunities. He appeared in A Brother's Kiss Next Friday and several smaller projects, but most roles felt like echoes of Casper, the fast-talking, streetwise kid. He also co-founded a clothing brand, Fat Clown, with friends from New York's skate community. On the surface, he had escaped poverty. But beneath the surface, the old demons remained. Fame brought money and access, but it also amplified temptation. Alcohol and drugs remained constant. On film sets, he sometimes lashed out, and whispers of volatility followed him. He was a young man still trying to outrun trauma that money couldn't mend. Marriage seemed to offer stability. In 1999, he wed Gina Rizzo, a fashion stylist who many believed grounded him. Friends hoped she might help him navigate Hollywood's treacherous waters. They bought a house, celebrated milestones, and for a time, life seemed calmer. But the peace was fragile. The decline. By the late 1990s, roles dwindled. Hollywood had pigeonholed him as the street kid archetype, and as he aged, casting agents lost interest. He wrestled with depression, worsened by substance abuse and the burden of being forever linked to Casper. The character that had given him fame had become a prison. His co-star Leo Fitzpatrick, who played Telly in Kids, later said, "He was the best actor in Kids, but the character he played was closer to him than he wanted anyone to know." It was a haunting truth. Casper wasn't merely a role. It was Justin's mirror. The debate over Kids persists. Was Larry Clark exposing the raw truth of youth or exploiting vulnerable teens for shock value? For some cast members, the film was a stepping stone to successful careers, Clea Sevigny and Rosario Dawson among them. For others, the film's shadow lingered darkly. Harold Hunter, another skater from the cast, died of a drug overdose in 2006. Pierce, meanwhile, carried the weight long before. Las Vegas, July 2000. By mid-2000, Pierce's marriage was reportedly strained and his career was stagnant. He and Gina traveled to Las Vegas, the city where they had wed the year before. Accounts differ on why. Some say work, others say vacation, but it's clear Pierce was in turmoil. On July 10, 2000, he checked into the Bellagio Hotel alone. Later that day, security entered his room. They found him dead. He had hanged himself. He left behind 2 suicide notes, though their contents remain private. He was only 25. The news devastated the film world, the skate community, and the generation who had seen themselves in his performance. The boy who embodied the reckless vitality of 1990s youth had run out of time. The legacy of Justin Pierce. Pierce's story is layered in sadness and contradiction. On one level, it's a familiar tale, a young star overwhelmed by sudden fame, crushed by the demons that fame both revealed and amplified. But it's also more. His story is a chilling reminder of the cost of art that blurs life and performance. Kids endures as a raw cultural artifact, not because of stylized filmmaking, but because of its authenticity, an authenticity extracted from real teenagers living on society's edge. Justin Pierce's performance as Casper remains unforgettable precisely because it was real. That same truth, however, ultimately consumed him. He became trapped in a character who was both his triumph and his curse. In remembering him, we must look beyond nostalgia. Behind every cultural icon, behind every character that grips us, stands a human being wrestling unseen battles. Pierce wasn't just a face of 1990s counterculture. He was one of its casualties. He was a son, a husband, a friend, and a skater whose light burned bright but short. His life forces us to confront the price of authenticity when it collides with exploitation. His story reminds us that what audiences consume as art often leaves real scars on those who create it. Justin Pierce's life was not a movie. It was a brief, brilliant, and deeply painful human experience. Its ending, in that silent Las Vegas hotel room, echoes with a grief that no script could capture.